Hi and welcome to this week's Wu Wei Wisdom Life Lessons teaching. It's great to be back with you all. This week we are talking all about how to release repressed emotions and emotional pain. You'll learn the real reason why you may be finding it so difficult to let go of this pain and how your inner child is involved. You'll also discover the steps that you can take to dissolve and release these emotions once and for all. Okay, David, so how common is this issue of people struggling with repressed, bound up emotions in terms of the clients you deal with?
Well, in terms of my clients, it's extremely common. And so these emotions can be anxiety, fear, this can be anger, this can be any emotion that they believe it's like kind of stored in their body. And I think this is the first thing I want to get across, Alex. Our teaching is different to most people. You don't have emotional saddlebags. You don't store these emotions from childhood. The emotion itself is created from your belief. So what you're storing and what you haven't resolved is the belief. And that is what makes this teaching so different.
So, David, if someone comes to you and say, I have got so much anger inside of me that I'm just not letting out. It's like I'm a powder keg, like under heavy pressure, and this anger comes from everything that happened to me in my childhood and everything that's happened to me in my adult relationships that have gone wrong. It's making me feel ill. What would you say to them in terms of describing the Wu Wei Wisdom approach?
Well, I'm just smiling because I would say to them the first thing I say to most clients, do you agree that you are creating the emotions? And I think that's the biggest question that you have to answer. If this is you that Alex has just described, you have to be clear. Those very intense, overpowering, strong, I'm acknowledging your emotions fully. They are very strong. You are an expert at creating these emotions. But do you agree those emotions that you're experiencing in your body, you are creating? No one else can put an emotion in your body. A situation can't put an emotion as in your body. Now, the response I normally get, Alex, is yes. I've watched your videos, David, and of course, intellectually, I understand that emotions aren't floating around the room or emotions aren't coming somehow from my past. But, and there's the but, and as I always say in these teachings, but in the middle of a sentence means forget what I've just said. Because when you use but in that, it means you haven't fully accepted that you are creating the emotion. And when you don't do that, you become the victim of the emotion. And that's what you're describing. Consumed by this anger, Alex, invading your life, invading your decision making. It's the emotion that is leading you, and you are surrendering to the emotion that you're creating.
David, I think the first stumbling block for a lot of people, though, is this but thing, because yes, logically we can get the idea that we are creating the emotions by what we think and what we believe, which is what we talk about in all of our teachings. However, it would be quite understandable if someone said, because of what happened to me in my childhood, because of the trauma I went through in my childhood, or because of the trauma I went through in my last adult relationship, I've got a lot of hurt and upset, and it's buried deep inside me, and it's kind of eating me alive. It's affecting my health.
And I would say to that client, we've just taken the first step. Because now, if you agree that those deep instances, those traumas, those experiences, that dysfunctionality in your childhood is the reason that you're creating the emotion. Let's look at that. Let's look at those and let's resolve those issues. Because one thing is very important. We can't change the past. We haven't got a time machine. We can't go back and make things the way that you would like them to be, or the way that you think should have happened, or what's fair or just. It's impossible. We can't do it. That chapter has been closed. Now, the only one that's leaving it open is you. You are not bringing that chapter to a close because you are still connected to those unresolved issues. So the first step is, do you understand that it's your beliefs on those unresolved issues that are creating the emotion? And as you just said, yes, I understand that. Now you've taken the first step. If you agree, like you just did, Alex, yes, I understand the emotions are coming from those issues in my childhood or whatever, you've taken the first step. So now let's go and resolve those issues. And as I just said, we can't change the issues, but we can empower you to change your perception of the issues and change the way you look at those. And the way you change your perception and the way you look at it will, this is very important what I'm going to say, immediately change the emotion.
Yeah.
So the emotion is not stored in you. It doesn't overpower you. You are constantly creating the emotion by the in-depth belief that you are holding and have held since maybe childhood.
The belief about what happened, how it was unfair, how it was unjust, how it might be, you may believe that you're not a good person, you're a bad person, you're unlovable, you're incapable. All these sort of beliefs that either we form in childhood and maybe typically are reinforced in adulthood, they are the beliefs that are creating the thoughts that are then creating the emotions that we are somehow struggling with and we're burying down. We're not addressing the situation.
Yes, so you're absolutely right. Those are the thoughts that are creating the emotions today. And then what my clients do is they can't express those emotions, so they put a lid on it. It's like, if you want an analogy, it's like a pressure cooker. Have you ever used a pressure cooker? And that emotions are growing and growing. The gas is turned up high. And so once we can approach the beliefs that started, we turn the gas down. And then slowly we can diffuse the situation and we can find a different way of you looking at that. Because one thing I'll say, and I say this to all my clients, it's no secret. If you've come through a dysfunctional, difficult childhood or difficult relationships, you are not a victim. You are victorious. And that's why I have no doubt in saying to you, I believe you're awesome. Because of anyone that come through the childhood that you've come through, or to be victorious and to be able to cope with everything that you've done in your life, I take my hat off to you. You're an amazing person. And the only one that doesn't really believe that is you. And that's where you can change the perception. And that will immediately take the gas down on the pressure cooker, and your immediate emotions will start to dissipate.
So, David, I'm wondering whether it's a little bit more complicated even than the model you're describing, because, say, for example, we have experienced some sort of childhood trauma or abusive situation, or we've experienced an adulthood trauma or abusive situation. Intellectually and authentically, we may reflect back and know that it wasn't our fault and reach some level of personal acceptance with what happened. You know, it was about them, it wasn't about me, kind of thing. But there is a part of our mind, our ego or inner child, that wants to hold on to the story of it was unfair. It was unfair what happened to me in my childhood, or it was unfair in terms of what happened to me in my adult relationship, or how that person wronged me in my adult life. It was unfair, it was unjust. That inner child part of our psyche ignores the logic, ignores the authentic perspective, and it still wants to hold on to the faulty perception or faulty belief, which is then, that's what remains to be creating the negative self-talk. And that's what, as you said, is constantly reinfecting us with negative emotions.
So thank you, Alex. You just described in a different way exactly what I was saying.
Okay.
Because if you haven't resolved those issues, that part of your mind is looking for confirmation. There you go again. This is happening to me again. And it means the original issue, situation, hasn't been resolved because the story is still running. And so the story then becomes your identity, as we've explained in many teachings. And you see yourself as this victim. And then you see what happens. You dismiss all the good things that are happening to you. And you may be shaking your head and saying, David, nothing ever good happens to me. You're wrong. You have amazing things happening to you. But you dismiss those and you focus on the issues that confirm the story. So you haven't accepted or refocused on resolve that original problem. So all you're doing is what you call confirmation bias. I call a self-fulfilling prophecy. You're almost looking for things to prove to yourself there's something wrong with you. You're not good enough. You can't cope. I always laugh at that. And you're unlovable. And so it's constantly confirming it. And this is why it's so important, this teaching. Because if you hold those beliefs, you guide yourself down a path that's inauthentic. That means you can't reach your potential. How can you be successful when you believe you're unsuccessful? You'd be proving yourself wrong. And so the emotions grow, and then you can't display your emotions because you may want to blow your top at something that's so insignificant. You know it's silly, and so you keep a lid on it. The pressure cooker grows, and you mentioned, and this is so important, I don't want to skip over this, this only doesn't affect your emotional health and well-being. This definitely affects your physical health and well-being. There's so many physical problems that have a root in emotions. And I think we all know this. And we have to dig down. And this is why we do this work. If we can solve those very early emotional problems, and have you ever seen that thing on television when they hit one domino and all the dominoes go out? If we can get to the first domino, or the root, or what the Taoists call the fountainhead, the beginning, and then this surge of chi energy will wash away all of these negative emotions and clear it up. But you have to go back and resolve those issues. You can't leave them unresolved.
And David, I know in a way that this exact issue that you talked about and the interrelationship between our emotional health, repressed emotions, and our physical health was kind of what first led you into doing this work, because you were trained and practicing as a Chinese medicine doctor, and people were coming to you for acupuncture, Chinese herbs, Chinese massage. because they were suffering with muscular problems, digestive problems, headaches, low energy. And when you did your kind of talking diagnosis with them, it became very apparent that the root of the problem lied in their emotions and their thought patterns and their beliefs. And that's what then led you into psychology and talking therapies.
That's right, Alex. It amazed me that so many people treat the physical, but they don't look at the cause. And so when you start to ask the cause of anything, poor digestion, poor sleeping, even physical things that you don't think have anything to do with emotions, back strain, back pain, shoulder pain, these have roots, nearly always I found, in emotional disturbances. And you can treat the physical, but then it reoccurs and it reoccurs. It's like a cycle. And you've got to get down to that first domino. You've got to get down to the core, not for every single body, but I would say the majority is childhood issues. Hence the concept of the inner child, a part of your mind that's frozen, a part of your mind that you experience a very difficult situation or a childhood or a dysfunctional family or a situation at school, and you didn't have the cognitive awareness. You didn't have the understanding to deal with it. So what you did, you shut down. You blamed yourself. And this is really the amazing thing. When you do this work, you see we've got this beautiful, gorgeous inner child inside of us. And when you peel back the layers and the emotions that they're built up to protect themselves from what? To protect themselves from blaming themselves. And that really is what we have to change. And why it's a little bit more difficult, or why for some people it's extremely difficult, you have to learn to go through that wave of emotion. That takes us right back to the beginning. I am not undermining or belittling the intensity of your emotional feelings. They are extremely powerful, but they are just emotions, and they will pass unless you keep on igniting them. They are not stuck in your body. They are not stuck in your shoulders. You don't have to walk around hunchback. And even now, watching me, you can try it now. Just take a breath. Just with me. Just take a breath and drop your shoulders and relax your body and bring yourself onto an imaginary center line. And together, let's breathe through that center line. And just allow the breath to go deeper. And see if you can hear past the emotions. See if you can ride the emotions like riding a surf. Because at the root of that, there's a part of your mind that I would call the inner child. Those are the cries of the inner child, those whispers under the emotions. And so you have to learn to go through the emotions. Emotions are powerful, but they are just emotions. And let's get to the core and let's get to the root.
Thank you, David. And next Saturday, we are publishing a brand new long-form guided meditation for David on exactly this topic. David will guide you through a beautiful meditation to help you get in touch with and release these repressed emotions and begin to manage those beliefs that keep inflaming and creating the emotions within you. So, David, this is really all about the deeper inner child work, which you've just touched into, and the idea that although we can momentarily make ourselves feel better, whether it's through having an acupuncture treatment or a massage or going for a walk to clear our head, until we do the deeper work with our inner child and sit with our inner child, that part of our mind, to explain to it that there's a misunderstanding here. It wasn't your fault. It was about them. It was about the situation. And to release and find some measure of acceptance in what happened, and to release the story and the identity that the inner child's built up around these beliefs. Only then can you stop reinfecting yourself with the negative emotions.
Thank you, Alex. You use a very powerful spiritual word there, acceptance. And I would say this will always come down to accepting the situation for what it was. And it may be that your parents tried their best or didn't even try their best or whatever. They didn't have good parenting skills. But we can't change that situation. You can't change that situation. And the question for you is, can you parent yourself? Can you do a better job for your inner child than they did? And that's a real good test for you. Can you rise above it? Because if you look at life through the inner child's eyes, it's just like looking through a little pinhole. And what we try and do in these teachings with your help is to widen your perception and to let you look at the bigger picture and to connect with a part of you that the inner child hasn't yet known, that Shen, that spirituality. And that's really what meditation helps you do, to put your hands, heal the child. And what we're doing by healing the child is connecting them back to a vital part of them, their spirituality. And the inner child will accept this once it's given to them in a loving, compassionate, caring, and consistent way. This is something you have to do, not just because you're in a tight spot, 10, 15 minutes a day through a meditation. And as Alex said, we've done a meditation. Perhaps you could try that, listening to that as every morning, and just to get your mind focused and to really take responsibility for yourself, accepting, growing, and reaching your true potential. And that's really what I want for you. And I always say, if you believed in yourself half as much as I believed in yourself, we're more than halfway there.
Thank you, David. And as I say, please look out for our new guided meditation on this topic, which will be published next Saturday. And in the meantime, I will also put a link in the show notes to our inner child teaching playlist. And there are many, many long form teachings on there to help you with your inner child work, inner child healing, and inner child reparenting. I really hope you have enjoyed this teaching. Please do let us know, and perhaps share it with someone else who you think it may also benefit. David works every week one-to-one with clients all over the world by Zoom video call on exactly the sort of issues we've talked about today. If you'd like to learn more about David's one-to-one consultations, I will also put a link to those in the show notes as well. And finally, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We produce new long-form teachings every Saturday, as well as 2 midweek short snippets of wisdom for you to enjoy. So don't forget to subscribe. We look forward to sharing with you again very soon. Bye-bye.